Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to Idle Thoughts. Now, this is kind of a bit of a side podcast to Brainwaves normally, where the Brainwaves boys, that is myself, that is Jamie Adams. With me is Ian McAllister. Say hello, Ian.
Hello, Ian.
And Ian Chandler. Say hello, Ian.
Hello, Ian.
Beautiful. And we're going to talk about games that we've played. Because we talk a lot about news and events that are happening in the board game world. We don't talk a lot about what we have been playing. Now, you're going to hear about it. So we actually met up fairly recently. Ooh. We all got together in the south side of Glasgow at the Lucky Sparrow Games Cafe, who are, of course, our executive producers. And if you're listening, Lucky Sparrow lot, hello, you are wonderful. And we each brought a mound of games, didn't we?
We did indeed. So many games.
Absolutely.
Well, I had a big pile of review games from before lockdown and finally got through some. Some reviews of those things are up on the website already. Some are coming. And today we just want to have a wee chat about our impressions of those games a little bit and what we thought of them, that kind of thing.
I would also like to say, just before we start, if anyone's got any concerns about us all meeting up, the Lucky Sparrow Game Cafe does have socially distance measures in place. Basically, we sat at a table which was separate, which was kind of subdivided by a wall of cling film, basically. And when we weren't eating or drinking, we had our masks on pretty much all the time. Indeed.
Which would be quite warm on a day like today.
It would be warm on a day like today. But yeah, we had our masks on, we had hand sanitizer. I was about to say up the wazoo, but that's doesn't bear thinking about. But we were keeping very, very safe and very careful.
I personally didn't have hand sanitizer anywhere other than my hands. I don't know about yourself.
Yes.
I was covered in it. We took every precaution.
I wondered why you looked a little bit shiny.
Always. Yeah, it was kind of slimy. It was very strange.
Anyway. We kicked off the day, I believe, with Overstocked.
Indeed. So this was a game that I got sent by Play for Keeps Games. I believe they're coming to Kickstarter towards the end of August, start of September. And it's a little sort of, what would you call it, tile-laying game, sort of. What you're doing is you're playing cards from your hand, each of which has got 6 little squares in it, little rectangular cards. And you are building a little warehouse of toys from the past. These toys are similar to, but legally distinct from, Furbies, yo-yos, Tamagotchis, and what did we say the fourth one was?
Care Bears, I believe,
or potentially Polly Pockets.
Or potentially Polly Pockets. Yeah. But it did have a bear head on them, so I think they're Care Bears. I think they're probably Care Bears. But anyway.
Either way.
What you're doing is each of you has got 6 of these cards, and the game basically lasts until you've played all your cards. You each start with a card in front of you, which is another one of these little warehousey cards. And you're building little contiguous segments of these toys, like so joined up segments of Tamagotchis and Furbies and whatever. And at the end of the game, you score points based on the contiguous area of, say, Furbies in your warehouse, multiplied by the one in the central warehouse. There's the central warehouse, which is meant to be the popularity of those toys. So if I've got 5 in my warehouse altogether, side by side, and there's 2 in the central, you score 10 points for those Furbies. The wee wrinkle to this game is that the most popular toy in the middle, the one that's got the largest contiguous area, is actually too popular. It's overstocked, boom boom, and it counts negative. So you've got this slightly weird push and pull between the players as you try and sort of make large areas for yourself, and then keep an eye on what other players are going for, and trying to make sure those toys they're going for become negative, so you get the most points. There's a wee bit of push and pull, and it's quite a charming wee game. What did you two think of it?
I thoroughly enjoyed it for what it was. Game of almost zero complexity. Basically, your entire rules explanation and setup and taking out the box and convincing us to play was probably about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
something like that.
I would say one of the other wee wrinkles which I did enjoy was you can the cards you place down have to cover 1 or 2 tiles, sections of the other cards, and if there are any workers on those tiles, they cannot be covered up.
Yeah, there are workers on some of the tiles, and health and safety regulations say you're not allowed to drop large boxes on them.
Terrible.
It's just government regulation gone mad.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of those little games. It's not particularly mind-blowing. It's a perfectly entertaining little time while you're there. I'll be putting up a proper review of it later this month, which Will that be out by the time this podcast goes live? No, it won't. Well, it might be. Who knows? The vagaries of time.
Everything's up in the air right now, everybody.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm literally throwing Overstocked up in the air right now. But yeah, it's a perfectly fine game. I'll be doing a full review of it later.
It was quick, kind of simple, a good. I don't like to use the term filler game, but it was a good one that was just eased us in nicely to the day.
Indeed. Completely agree.
Yeah, I think calling it a filler game isn't doing it a disservice. It's very quick playing. You can play it. We played a couple of rounds of it. There was a sort of slightly expanded rule set with a different point scoring system, which we didn't like as much, but read our review when it's up and we'll break that down a little bit further for you. One of the other games I brought with me was Swatch, which is from Minerva Games. Now, this was on Kickstarter recently, but has since cancelled due to not really getting going properly. And it's actually quite a cool wee game. Basically, its theme is color mixing. So you're playing card. You've got this sort of, is rondel the right word? It's not quite the right word. Basically, you've got this sort of stack of cards laid out on the table, 3 rows of 5. And each round, you're placing a little worker dude called an artist below one of these cards, and you're doing something with that card. You're either getting rid of it so other people can't get it, you're storing it in your hand for later so you can play it, or you're going to take the action on it. And the actions are like get certain colors, mix colors together, steal colors from other people, that kind of thing. And what you're aiming to do is you each have a secret goal where you're trying to mix particular colors together to get swatches, hence the name of the game, from a central sort of reserve. And you have to get particular swatches for your own hidden goal. First person to get to 3 wins, sort of. We'll come to that in a second. And yeah, so you're mixing colors together. You're mixing cyan, magenta, and yellow together to get red, green, and blue. And then you're using red, green, and blue to buy those swatches effectively and put them in front of you. And I really like the central puzzle, the central sort of like putting your little meeple down to get things, because one of the things that adds a little wrinkle to it, keep saying adding a little wrinkle to it, is that not only you're obviously taking action away from someone else, but also the order of those meeples is the order you'll do the next round in. So you're having to think about that. And the last person each round can also sort of pop down onto the next row and grab something before you get there. It means they don't get an action next round, but they can grab something they really want. So there's a lot of nice little considerations in there. Really simple considerations, but quite compelling ones, I think. And yeah, the cards you store, you can play after you play your meeple, so you can do little combos. And yeah, I found it like a really quite compelling little game. And the theme came through really well, I thought, for essentially what's a sort of worker placement kind of game. I thought the theme came through really strong. And yeah, I hope it comes back strong and Kickstarter and does well. What did you think?
I played this first with the designer Scott and Oliver of Tabletop Games Blog on one of Oliver's streams in the middle of lockdown a couple of months ago. I was very intrigued. I was actually quite entranced by just the speed of it and just how nice is a really useless word, but I'll try and let me change that. Instead of saying nice,
it flows really easily.
The flow of it, I thought the very clean art style, very kind of lent weight to the theme of just, your artists trying to mix these colors and make it. So it was just very simple blocks of color. And once you've got, a swatch, the one of 3 that you need, you put it next to you and you turn it over and it's got a little kind of funny name for it, which I think is a lovely wee touch because you don't see them beforehand.
Yeah, that's a fantastic mini reward when you turn it over.
It's a lovely reward. But for me, I think my favourite thing about it was how it is a game that forces you to be elegant and efficient because of the victory conditions, which I know Ian hasn't mentioned it, but is when you get your final 3rd swatch, you are no longer allowed to take any turns. But if you have any resources left in front of you, any cyan, magenta, or yellow cubes, or red, green, or blue discs, they sit there just in front of you, and at the end of everyone else's turn, one disappears.
Yeah.
And
it's
only by having all 3 swatches and no resources in front of you can you be considered to win. So if I finish, but I have 7 resources in front of me, there's an end game timer now in effect.
Yeah, and I thought that was impossible, that you could finish with just nothing, but Ian Chandler managed it.
Yeah, Ian managed it, the jammy git that he is.
First time, only time playing, bang.
Beginner's luck.
I thoroughly enjoyed that mechanism, actually. That made the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
Because it meant that even... Like, I was sitting on the edge of my seat the whole game because I was skirting so close to disaster. And if one of you two had slightly messed with me, like literally even slightly, then I would have finished turns and turns behind.
I should have messed with you more. Yeah. So that's Swatch from Minerva Games. It's not on Kickstarter anymore, but hopefully it'll be coming back. In fact, I know it'll be coming back. Scott said so. Keep an eye out for that, and we'll be shouting about that when it's out and about. And you'll be able to play it at Virtual Expo as well, which may have been by the time this cast goes out. Depending on when it gets edited.
This cast. Oh yeah, this one.
Yeah. Ooh, I just want to say, I actually had a really poor impression of Swatch when you first got it out with the overall description of it, because I saw contracts in the middle and resources and then a limited selection of actions, and I thought, this is going to be another game where all of us just sit around a table and the person who best selects the actions in the middle then grabs the best contracts, which then gives a feedback loop that everybody else falls behind. And I've played so many games with contracts in the middle that are just soulless. And I thought, well, the theme here is not much. And then something about it, everything really came together. Like that core central mechanism of deciding the turn order by your placement really made it, actually.
Indeed.
Sorry.
Jamie, you brought our next game along, didn't you?
I did. I brought a game that I really enjoy. I actually included it in one of our recent articles, which was favourite games for under £20. Now, this one is a little bit of a cheat, but it is Biblios from Yellow. I believe it's still available to get. I would highly recommend it. Very simple game, where it's a set collection game, but it's a little bit different of a set collection game. The theme, such as it is that you are abbots of monasteries in the Middle Ages trying to get the best items for your monasteries and your libraries in the monasteries. And you're collecting things like scribes and manuscripts and forbidden tomes. And whoever gets the most valuable ones gains victory points. And whoever gets the most victory points wins. Now, the victory points are represented by 5 dice. And throughout the game, there are cards that allow you to alter the value and therefore the victory points of the dice. Which can mean that if you see Ian is somehow hoarding the green cards, you can just make the bottom fall out of the points of the green. And therefore, all his work might come to nothing. Now, it's done in 2 very simple phases. That's all it is. It's only 2 simple phases. The first one is called the gift phase, where the person whose turn it is takes cards one at a time. They've got to put 1 card face down in front of them. Obviously, they can look at the cards before making this decision. They can decide to put a card face down into the auction pile, and then anything that they haven't left over, they have to put face up in middle of the board for other players to take one at a time in clockwise order. Now, you do it one at a time. So, for example, if I draw a card, I think, oh, that's really good, I'm going to put it in front of me. But I draw another card that's even better. Well, I've got to give it to auction or give it to these other players. And that goes round until the deck is completely gone. And everyone has a pile in front of them of cards. And there is an auction pile. Then it is an auction phase. Then the auction deck is shuffled and it's auctioned off. In the game, there are 2 types of cards. There is set cards, so they're in the various colours, red, green, blue, brown, and yellow. And there are money cards of various denominations. You buy, with the auction, money cards with set cards, and you buy set cards with money cards. And the game goes on until the auction deck has been depleted.
If that description made 0 sense, don't worry, I played this twice with Jamie, and both times, until about halfway through the game, I've gone, I don't know, this doesn't make any sense. And then halfway through the game, you go, oh dear.
Yeah, it's a game of stupid, agonizing decisions. That's what it is. Yeah. Game of terrible decisions.
My apologies if my description was a little bit kind of, I really don't care anymore, Jamie.
It's
urge you to
perfect
please, if you
description.
can, find it and give it a try, because it is a really just simple, enjoyable, tense game where you draw a card that's like a 3 and it's the blue set, and 3's pretty good. 3 good. Okay, I'll put it there. But you draw the next card and it's a 4, and you need to give it to the auction pile, and then it comes up again when it's the auction, and you want to buy it, but you don't have enough money, and Ian next to you just bids something ridiculous, and you go, oh no, he's gonna buy it.
Yeah. You spend time sort of bumping up something, and then someone takes it out from underneath you, or you can't buy the right things. You've not got enough money cards. It's a really cool little game. Actually, I really enjoyed it. It burnt my brain completely, but it's good fun.
There was a couple of times Ian just sat there going, there was no discernible kind of tangible noises coming out of him.
Oh yeah, it's just another one of those games like Swatch. It's got those agonizing moments of decision, which I really love in games when those points of decision come up. They're great. Talk about agonizing decisions. Let's move on to our next one, Valley of the Kings.
Ooh,
right, Ian. Yeah, this is your game. This is one of your favorites.
Yes, this is a game like Jamie that I recommended in the under £20 game on our website. I love Valley of the Kings. Absolutely adore it. It is my favourite deck building game, hands down.
Now, I'm going into this with a prejudice because,
Yes.
as has maybe said a number of times, I have a very rocky relationship with deck building games.
So I brought it to the cafe knowing full well that Jamie did not like deck building games. So it's a really simple standard deck builder where you have 5 cards. You choose what to do with your 5 cards. You buy stuff from the market. And then at the end of your turn, you get rid of all your 5 cards. And then at the end of the game, the person with the most victory points wins. Easy peasy. The theme is you are all pharaohs. You are buying stuff to throw away in your tomb. And at the end of the game, you die. The person with the most and best rubbish that they have thrown away wins. Key is that, of course, if you throw a card away, you can't use it. So my favourite thing in the game is sitting with a hand of cards going, these are all excellent, and I need to bin one of them. And because you are constantly binning cards, like literally every turn you want to bin a card at the very least, your hand of cards and your entire deck stays about 10 cards. So that thing in deck building where you end up with this massive bloated deck that no longer does anything whatsoever doesn't happen, and you end up with a deck that's 5 to 10 cards of excellent cards that you have bought, and they all combo together wonderfully. And
I'm pretty sure I ended up with a deck bigger than that. So I was bad at it.
I was likewise also bad at it and spent a lot of time looking at the pair of you going, how are you doing this? I've just got all this rubbish.
Whereas because I've played it 100 times, I managed to get my entire deck down to 5 cards.
Yeah.
So every turn I drew
part of me,
those same 5
Part
cards.
of me was a little, it's always the problem with a lot of board games if someone has played it a lot and they bring it to new people. Yep. And if there's specific strategies or stuff like, certain cards are coming, so you would buy certain cards, and you said, this is quite good, but it'll allow me to do things with a couple of other cards later.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, that's really cool. That's really interesting. But at the same time, I went, but if you hadn't said that, it would have been very easy for you just to have not said anything, wiped the floor with us, and gone, it's how the cards fall, innit?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's always going to be a factor of that, and we'll come back to that in a game.
I know, but
later
I think it's because it's deck building, and maybe I just don't have the eyes, and you maybe need to try and just play more. I would like to say I did actually enjoy Valley of the Kings, although I wasn't great at it. I think you and I drew Ian for the win.
Yeah, 36 points each according to my board game stats.
But yeah, I don't have the
24.
eye for the combos.
Yep.
That kind of can come from things. So
yeah,
I think and that's my personal disadvantage. Maybe that's souring it slightly in my eyes, but at least I'm aware of it.
Yeah, it's absolutely a game that rewards understanding the combinations you can get in it and building either towards those or just... What I think I like most about it is adapting on the fly, because you'll see how the scoring at the end of the game is set collection. So what you want to do is both maximize your own set and disrupt other people's, which means you end up buying stuff that other people want, which doesn't combo with your stuff because all the sets combo together. So you end up destroying your own deck, trying to break other people's stuff. At which point, every single turn is a little mini puzzle of these cards that don't work together unless you can end up doing something weird, which is my favorite thing of just drawing 5 cards and going, oh, this is terrible. Wait a minute, I can do something cool. Which is, it's just my favorite thing, drawing those 5 cards and going, this is awful. But
I really enjoyed it. Definitely want to play it more. And there's 3 expansions out for now, and there's a deluxe where it's got all of them in it, some extra cards, that kind of thing. But if you want to try it out, it's super cheap to buy. The sort of core sets are out there for not very much at all.
£12 to £14. Absolutely brilliant. I would not recommend the
Something
deluxe.
like that.
I would recommend getting one of the box sets for £12 to £14. That's it.
And talking about very cheap games, well, the next one we played after we break for lunch and before we went on to our sort of main game, I guess.
Our main course, yeah.
Our main course was Letterpress. Now, this is one that I've played a little bit before. Again, another game I got just before lockdown from Osprey Games. Thanks very much for sending that out, folks. It's a word game. So word games have a little bit of an odd history in board game. Obviously, there's Scrabble and things like that. And I've tried a few different word games. I've tried Wordsy from Gilhova and Formal Ferret Games. Sure, I've tried a couple of others.
We played Letter Jam at UK Games Expo last year.
Letter Jam was quite good, yeah. Letter Jam is the sort of cooperative word game, yeah. But Letterpress is a competitive game, and effectively what you're doing is each round you are drafting 5 cards for your hand that are all letters, and then you are trying to make the best word you can from those cards and a shared pool of 3 letters and 2 vowels. And the best letter is determined by points. The little sort of trick in the game as well is that you also have some challenges to get towards. So that might be like only use letters from your hand, or use all the letters that are available in the shared pool, or something like that. And at the end of each round, the person with the most points gets to choose a couple of cards from all the letters that were used and put them in a little library of sorts for the very final round. And you also get to put any challenges that you managed to win into that pile. So you're doing this for 4 rounds, basically doing the same thing. And then in the final round, you're making a word from the shared pool again, but also all the letters that you have won over the course of the game. Which I really, really like as a mechanic, because it means that even if you're not that great at words, you can win some of the challenge cards by just hitting the right points totals or hitting particular goals, and still have a chance of getting the best final word, which is the only one that really counts for the game end. And then, it's a really fast-playing little game. It's got a solo mode, which I haven't tried as well. It's a super compact little box. You don't need to write anything down or record scores or anything like that on paper. You just play through it, get to the end, job's good. And I think it's like £12-14 or something. It's a really neat wee game that I really quite like. I'll be reviewing it fully very soon.
Yep. Yeah, we should say it's by Robin David, who is great. He's a lovely person, or at least seems to be on Twitter. Yeah, I was a little worried when you mentioned the scoring mechanism. I thought it would end up with a feedback loop where the person who was best at the initial scoring each round would end up with a massive selection at the end. But of course, if you get the best selection, then you just draft first, at which point you have the agonizing choice of choosing either a good letter that is easy to use and scores 0 points, or an incredibly difficult to use letter that will score you plenty of points if you can use it at the end, but of course is incredibly hard to use. So
there always seems to be plenty of choice. You can try and work towards getting a word, hoping that the central word letters will get you that thing. There's a bit of sort of risk reward there as well. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the better letter games I've played. I played it with my wife Kath as well, and she quite liked it.
Yeah.
It's a good wee game. I think I'll probably be staying in the collection, that one.
As someone who hates Scrabble, absolutely hates it, I really enjoyed Letterpress, actually. I was very impressed with it.
See, on the other side, I quite enjoy Scrabble. I liked Letterpress. I think I just found it annoying and finicky. But that might just be me playing it for the first time going... But it's the typical Scrabble problem of going, there are these letters. I can't make anything, for goodness sake. But I think a lot of it was also, it's like, I've made this word. I can't believe I made a word, and you like beat me by like 1 point, and I'm like, oh, come on.
I think there were
Come on!
3 rounds where I beat you on the draw by like chance of having a higher letter score or something like that.
Yes.
And that was, because it happened 3 times in a row or something like that, I felt quite guilty about that at the end.
No, it's fine. It's just me being a little bit grumpy.
It's got that drafting thing to it as well, of you've caused some of your own problems as well. Like, you get your final set of cards each round, and you're like, you know that you've caused some of those problems in your own hand.
You mean a round where we drafted, and I think you got a Y, Ian got a G, and I got a J, and we're all sitting there going, thanks, guys, thanks for everything you've taken out of here.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Every single time at the end of the draft, I just went, what idiot gave me these letters? And I was like, oh no, that was me.
That's drafting for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, our final game of the day before we headed off our separate ways was the behemoth that is a Root. So Jamie had just gotten the new expansion, that's the Underworld expansion, and I had been holding his core game hostage since the start of lockdown.
You flipping had. I lent this game to Ian. You know, at about when do we meet? February, possibly.
Something like that, yeah.
And he said, "Can I borrow Root and the River Folk?" And I went, "Yeah, absolutely fine. You know, here's my copy. It's going to be a couple of weeks. You know, I'll be fine. I'll get it back." And then the global pandemic that is COVID-19 just got very serious, and I have not seen it until the beginning of August. And the Underworld expansion arrived, and I got a little bit of extra money, and I got the resin clearing markers. I got the extra vagabond stuff, and I sat there going, I can't play this. Also, the new deck, Exiles and Partisans. Holy goodness, that is good.
But we did get together. Yeah, we played with that new deck. We played with the resin clearing markers, and we played with the moles and the Covids. The Corvids,
not the Covids.
Not the Covids.
The COVID-19.
We are not.
Wow.
Patrick Lader, if you're hearing this, or Cole Verl, if you're hearing this, it is not the Covids. It is the Corvids. I'm sorry. This is not a suggestion for a new faction.
So I played the moles, and they were really cool. I really enjoyed the moles. So the moles thing was, you started quite small. You started in a small corner of the board. You had quite a lot of troops. You had a central sort of warren that you could make tunnels appear on the map and push your soldiers out of that warren onto the map. That was neat. But the main thing was you could hire basically mole royalty. And as the game progressed and you got into more clearings, you could hire different and better mole royalty. And you had quite restricted actions as the moles. You only had like a couple of actions a turn. But every time you hire like one of these advisors into your court, you get a free action of that particular type. So like maybe you get a free move or a free attack or something like that. So you're basically snowballing this mole army, and it was really cool. Like once I got the hang of it, it was really neat. I really enjoyed the moles.
But of course, if you lose any buildings in combat, you have to get rid of some of your lords, and the ability to secure them is removed from the game.
Yeah, they're gone forever. And also every time you get a court member, that gives you victory points. That's one of the ways the moles get victory points, is by making this court appear. And yeah, by the end of the game, I had like ridiculous numbers of free actions. It was great fun to sort of steamroller that.
Absolutely.
I came very close to winning there, but not quite.
Yeah.
Jamie was playing the Corvids.
Yeah,
crows.
I like to play.
Sneaky crows.
I like playing kind of low model count, kind of guerrilla factions, and I'm no good at playing them. I know this is my first time, but even so, the Corvids thing is there's not a lot of them. There's about 15 guys you can have. But they're basically about the map, and they place plots. Now, it can be a number of things. It could be a snare, that means when it's flipped over, when it's revealed.
These are all face down tokens on the board, so the other players don't know what they are.
If they're placed face up, the snare, you cannot recruit models or move models out of that area. There's extortion, which basically means I get to draw an extra card at the end of my turn. There is a raid, which means if it's ever removed face down or face up, every adjacent clearing gets a Corvid warrior placed in there. And there is the bomb, which, when it is flipped, all enemy models just get taken off the board of that clearing.
Yeah, they seemed really hard to play, the Corvids. I mean, it's the first time I've seen them and the first time you played them, but they did seem really quite tricky to play.
I think I need to work on misdirection a lot more, because it's placing down it's placing down plots, but then, as I did a little bit at the beginning of the game, basically playing the shell game of going, I can swap these plots about. Oh, where are they going to be? Which one is it? Is it a bomb? Is it not? Because at any time on their turn, any one of your opponents can go, see that clearing? That fox clearing? I'm going to give you a fox card or show you a fox card. Is this kind of plot? And if it is, I say, yes, it is. And the plot just goes. If it's not, they give me the card. So it's a lot of bluff, double bluff, triple bluff.
Yeah, the Corvids are basically playing poker. Effectively, it's all lots of bluffing and moving things around. Whereas the moles, they're not really playing like traditional RTS game like the cats are. And Ian Chandler was playing the cats. I don't know what the moles are like actually. I don't know what the comparison there is.
We'll get back to you on that for a comparison. Don't worry. But Ian, how did you find playing the cats? Because this is you've played a lot of Root, but this is your first time playing the cats, yes?
Yeah, so I have definitely played a lot of Root, and yeah, the cats were... So I previously watched the cats and gone, these guys are horrifying. They start everywhere, they have so many buildings, they pump out so much every single turn. But of course, saw exactly the limitations of the cats, which was they start everywhere, they start really strong with lots of options. And I rocketed up the victory point marker. And then every single turn saw more cats get murdered, more cats die, more buildings get burnt.
The mole kingdom took objection.
Yeah.
I tried to help, but the crows were there, and then they weren't.
If it wasn't for a couple of unlucky rolls, I think I would have had that game.
Absolutely. And then by the end of the game, I think I got to 28 victory points, thinking, this is it. I have the game in the bag. There's literally nothing they can do about it. And then 3 turns later, I got one last victory point and just pushed the victory point marker onto the 30 point. That was a horrifying experience, and just
for a good couple of turns, you just at that point just sat there as we slowly began to creep up.
Absolutely.
I played Root online with some friends recently on the tabletop simulator, and I almost managed a dominance victory with the cats.
Oh my goodness!
I came very close.
So that was my initial thinking with the cats. It was like, I've got cats everywhere, but not only that, the way the clearings were set up, there were bunny clearings to my end, and I started with a bunny clearing dominance card. So it's like, no matter what, I've got the dominance sealed up because I can block off the entrances. There's only 2 ways in, and then of course that was based on traditional Root, which did not have Root or Corvids. And the Root.
We were playing on the mountain map, which is one of the new ones that came with the Underworld expansion, which, along with being separated clearings, there are tunnels which you need to excavate, which get you a point.
They get you a point. Thank goodness, tunnels. How you won. That is how I won. Without those tunnels, I would have been dead in the water at 28 victory points, and that's it. I would still be there to this day.
There was also the keep, which is in the center of the board, and basically, if you are the dominant faction in there, at the end of your turn, you gain a victory point just for securing it, which I think I just leapt on as much as I could for I'll try and get some points. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah. Root continues to be fantastic. It's an amazing game. I'm Kath's getting some of it for my birthday that's coming up, so I'm getting the core and the River Folk expansion, and I might ask for other bits of it from my family as well. So just get everything basically, because it's absolutely fantastic. And I've got and we're hoping to get back to playing Oath at some point, which is the next later game coming when the TTS mods rules have updated. So we're hoping to get back to that because that has changed radically since we played it. When did we play that? Last year?
I thought it was the very beginning of this year.
Very beginning of this year. That's right. January, February this year I put together my copy. And we had an interesting time.
So for context,
I'm not sure it was good, but it was interesting.
I managed to play Oath a couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, just before we played the Root game, and found it drastically streamlined, and with the knowledge from the first game of Oath, went into it and had a drastically better time, just on all levels.
I'll be honest, boys, when we play it again, I was going to say when we play it again, I'm not sure I'm going to have much remembrance in the last game, because what I spent most of the time doing was sitting around at the very edge of the map, trying to do things, getting smacked down when I tried, and then I drew one card, which somehow made me win the game. Like, I literally drew a card that went, I'll play this. Okay, the game's ended.
Yeah.
Who wins? The person with this most type of points. Who's got that? You're the only person with those kind of points because you played that card.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm the winner then?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that kind of thing's been fixed quite a lot. They have changed a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. I've looked up Root since on Board Game Geek, and it has a weight
Oath?
rating of... Sorry, Oath. Yeah. It has a weight rating of 4 out of 5, which I think is almost entirely down to how obscure your actions are to how you actually achieve victory in the game. And the version I played since, the victory conditions were constantly changing, but it was due to the input of the players each turn. And it was the players going, okay, I'm going to win and I'm going to change the victory conditions so that I can do so, and planning a couple of turns ahead rather than it being a random weird thing that nobody quite controlled.
I've only read through the new rules, and it's the version before the one we are hoping to play, and everything seems much, much clearer to me already.
Okay.
But anyway, we will bring you news on that when we get to it, folks. Thank you very much for listening. As usual, the best way to help us out is to share the cast around and give us a review and rating on iTunes. We'll be bringing you more idle thoughts over the course of the year, and we might stick to this format a little bit when we meet up and play some games. We'll just have a chat about things we played, or if there's particular things we want to bring to your attention, we'll do these kind of casts when we can. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.